Sad music. Hey everyone, Georgie here with you on this very unique day. Things happened, no? Didn't it? Things really happened. Yeah, well, let's talk about what has happened. Like, if you've been living under a rock, then Zelensky today released General Zaluzhny from command. He did it supposedly on good terms. And instead of General Zaluzhny, General Alexander Cersi is now taking command. Also, General Cersi is known by the nickname The Butcher, which we're going to cover and how he got that. And there are certain issues with this appointment, but for me personally, because we finally have this event happened, I can now talk about all of the things that I've heard that were rumors about relationship with Zelensky and Zaluzhny, what was happening inside of Zaluzhny's team, because now with the appointment of Cersi, majority of what I knew lines up really well. You know, I tried to kind of speculate as least as I can, and a lot of these rumors about Zelensky and Zaluzhny I knew before. And for me, Cersi, I understand, like, let's put it this way. I understand why Zelensky put Cersi in there. What I don't understand is why couldn't Cersi just be in charge of certain direction and so on. But this is where kind of my lack of knowledge ends, right? Maybe Cersi just needed some more freedom. Maybe Zaluzhny was too much against, because Zaluzhny is a man with a very strong stances. He has demonstrated it time and time again. And I want to start today by saying thanks to General Zaluzhny from me, from pretty much everyone that follows my channel. I am pretty sure we all understand the significance of the persona of the General Zaluzhny and what he did. So today we're going to be talking, it's going to be more of a prelude to what I'm hoping to tackle also in the video. And we're going to be discussing, first and foremost, why did General Zelensky, why did General Zaluzhny needed to go in Zelensky's perspective. We're going to talk about the person of Cersi, so you get introduced who this new general is. And I'm going to explain to you why Cersi might not be the worst choice for the current situation. In my personal opinion, before we go into analysis, I think it's a mistake. I still believe that General Zaluzhny is a visionary general, is a general that understands modern warfare better than I believe anyone else. There are buts to that with regards to Cersi, but we're going to talk about it in a second. So let me see if I can get a couple of questions before we start. Maybe something really important is going to come up from you guys. If you have any questions, remember to write at Ukraine Matters, so it's highlighted for me. Yeah, it's very sad that Zaluzhny was released. There is right now a discussion that potentially General Zaluzhny could be offered a position as the general responsible in the new drone operator force, you know, because General Zaluzhny has presented this new type of warfare that is based in drones. There are rumors that he was offered this position of the new, and Zelensky has created a new type of military force in Ukraine, and that was a drone force, and potentially General Zaluzhny might be proposed to to take that role. But we'll talk about this. Okay, I don't see any questions, and I see that we are already quite a lot. So we are over 1,500. Thank you so much for joining it. So let's start. Let's start to dissect why this happened, why this didn't happen. Firstly, let's talk about the persona of Zaluzhny, who he was, and how did he do in his position? I mean, I will not sell a lot of things because I'm pretty sure because he was right up front and center, most of you know who he was and why he was. But General Zaluzhny was forged in battles over the from 2014 initial Russian invasion up to the 2022 full-scale Russian invasion and beyond, where he went up ranks by being at the front line, by being in practice, by seeing the enemy that they're fighting. And General Zaluzhny has known this war even before it started. Something that he also mentioned in his article was that it's a very, very tough knowledge for a person to know what your enemy is going to do. And General Zaluzhny was specifically that kind of a military person. He knew Russians before Russians attacked. He had already certain plans in action. They already were preparing certain things. That's why Ukraine stood. General Zaluzhny, his preparation, I know that right now a lot of people are quoting that Cersi defended Kiev. Fair enough. But General Zaluzhny defended Ukraine. And there are ups and downs in what he did. There was already kind of discussions after a first year of invasion whether General Zaluzhny did a good job or not so good job in preparation, because there were good things that were done with regards to invasion and so on. But there were also a little bit of negatives, most notably the unpreparedness of the south of Ukraine to invasion. If you recall those days of old, when Russians just penetrated Ukrainian defenses, and just within a week they stormed all the way through the south, covering huge terrains, and basically already at that moment, about a year into the war, during the first year when the first shock kind of went away, there was already first critique of General Zaluzhny, whether or not the preparations that he did before the war were good enough. But Ukraine stood, Kiev was defended, Kharkiv operation, not the liberation of Kharkiv, but the defense of the city when it was assaulted, was also a success. And this is where military prowess of the top general is always being questioned, right? Because it's always a hard connection between how much did the commanders on their specific positions in their specific respective areas did of work, and how much commanders inside of headquarters did of work, right? It's very hard to estimate, but all in all, the defense of Ukraine in the first stage, winning that special military operation part of the Russian invasion, it was a huge success. It did really, really good for General Zaluzhny. And then it transitioned to a new type of war. It transitioned to a war that supposedly General Zaluzhny needed to know how to fight, because that was similar to the warfare that Russians did fight in 2014 and beyond. And certain things were working out, other things not so much. First things first, let's talk about the Kharkiv operation and Kherson operation. One thing around the Kherson operation, and when I'm talking about Kherson operation, I'm talking about the initial counteroffensive that Ukraine proclaimed. It was retaking of the northern part of the river, or to be more precise, the right bank of Kherson. And during that time, it was the Zaluzhny's strategy that was at work for the most part. It was what he was hoping for, what he was expected. It was his plan to do. And if you remember something about Kherson operation, it wasn't very successful at the start for sure. It was very slow grinding. People and men that were in that operation have reported that it was one of the worst meat grinders to that date, when they were like, since then it's been non-stop meat grinder pretty much everywhere in Ukraine. But there were people that were saying that there were significant flaws in preparation of that offensive, that the forces and their way that they're acting was inadequate, that preparation of troops was inadequate. All of these things that say that there were flaws in a Central Command, specifically because like people from territorial defense forces appeared on certain frontline units. People with little to no training appeared on front lines. People with other inability to fight, like sick people and so on, without supplies, appeared on the front lines. These are all kind of general staff. I'm not saying it was bad or it was good. I'm just saying that it was a fact, and I believe it might have kind of, piled up as a small thing. Whereas in Kharkiv operation, a surprising Kharkiv operation that was done by General Cersi, it was a very blatant and brazen maneuver. So there was an opportunity that was there, and that opportunity was exploited, and Russians were routed, and after that, they were able to establish. So there were differences in commands already there. But at that moment, we're still not discussing about Cersi becoming a potential substitute for Zaluzhny. Zaluzhny was still there. The big change and big question for Zaluzhny obviously came during the preparation for counteroffensive. After Kharkiv operation, when the winter began and Ukrainians started struggling against the strikes from the Russian side on their critical infrastructure, there was still a lot of uplift about Ukrainian future, about Ukrainian preparation, and I believe, and we will trace it kind of backwards from where I'm going to make that statement. Zelensky already believed that the logic of the world likes the winners, so we need to win and win more to get even more winning. I made a video around that time that Kherson offensive was a huge gamble for Ukraine. And that gamble paid off because Ukraine won. But that momentum needed to be kept up. You couldn't just leave it be. So when General Zaluzhny prepared this plan, he was preparing this plan the way that he saw fit. And specifically what is noted here is that General Zaluzhny was claiming to do things differently than the United States wanted it. A lot of people are throwing, this is, I'm going to a little bit go on tangent, a lot of people are throwing towards Cersi that his defense of Bakhmut was really, really bad, that it costed a lot of Ukrainian lives. But that when people are saying that, they're missing the point that the analysts and all of the war correspondents are actually making about Bakhmut. Not the defense of Bakhmut itself that was at fault, not that defending the city was bad. What most of the analysts are saying is that focusing on defense of Bakhmut at the same time as you're conducting an offensive operations in the south, that was a mistake. Not the defense of Bakhmut initially, not the defense itself. This is something that very often get confused, and I just want to draw your attention because people will start pointing out that Cersi was defending Bakhmut, which he was, and then a lot of analysts and even US experts are claiming the defense of the Bakhmut was at fault, and it was not because of defense, it was because it was done especially during the offensive. And this is specifically decisions that are made by the commander-in-chief. So General Zaluzhny, he believed with all honesty, and he talked about this in his columns to The Economist and other, he believed in all honesty that he knew better than the American analysts, that he knew better than everything else. This, while understandable on the military level, that potentially General Zaluzhny is right, and I do believe that he was right. Unfortunately, as we can see, politics and relationship with allies is a very nasty thing, right? Having good relationship and having a positive image is very, very relevant. So when General Zaluzhny rejected the plan proposed by, and this is well known, proposed by the Pentagon, the US Army, and instead of focusing on one point attack in the south, he went for multi-pronged attack. And that didn't work. It's a risk that Zaluzhny took, and he lost. So that soured both the relationship with allies, because Zaluzhny said, I know better, shut up. And it also put Zelensky in a very weird position where allies now are unsure whether or not the equipment that they can donate to Ukraine is actually worth it if they're not going to be following the plan. And I understand what you're saying, everyone, I'm pretty sure, writing in chat, is that there was not enough resources, that compared to how much resource Ukraine got, that it achieved quite significant. I understand that. This is more about the principle. And the principle was that it soured relationship because Zaluzhny did not achieve their result. Worst of all, he did not achieve even the military minimal result, which I said and which everyone kind of understood was taking of Tokmak. What was achieved was relatively insignificant. And while I don't believe that in a military sense, the offensive in the south was a failure, in a public image, in an image where Ukraine was perceived first and foremost as a winning side, everyone was on the uplift. There was huge positive uproar about Ukraine crushing Russia, that we need to help Ukraine, give them the weapons. They have the power, they have the weapons. And then flopping really, really hard. That is bad. Here we go into another aspect of General Zaluzhny that, again, I understand it from the human perspective. I understand it with all my heart. And that is that General Zaluzhny truly, truly cares for his subordinates. When General Zaluzhny saw how Bradleys are burning up, how helicopters are dismantling the armored vehicles of Ukraine, how Ukrainians are being blown up, their limbs, legs, everything is just being torn apart by drones, mines, everything. He said no. He said no. Too much. This is too much of a cost for us to go forward with this. And I'm pretty sure you can understand this. But the cost of that decision is the lack of results. Is because whatever kind of slow push that Ukrainians were doing after that on multiple directions, it was never enough. It was never enough. So either General misunderstood what was the situation on the front line and didn't calculate for it. So it's his responsibility for miscalculation. Or his approach of multi-pronged attack didn't really work out and he never abandoned it. Well, I mean, like he started slowly abandoning it as he ran out of resources. And it's understandable that he wanted to do the right thing as he saw fit. But this is when the chickens come back to roost. I don't know that expression. Sorry for butchering that expression. And then after the offensive ended, Zaluzhny wrote an article in The Economist. And The Economist, oh, sorry, not the article, it was the interview to The Economist. And that interview was like a bomb. For Zelensky specifically, because of already souring relationship with the high command, Pentagon, and so on, about Zaluzhny's persona, about him being, the person that always does his own thing, it's just not good. And then when he said, and it was misquoted, his interview, because I took their article of Zaluzhny apart sentence by sentence, what he was saying is that there is a risk of stalemate. However, the word stalemate in a retrospective to an offensive didn't achieve any kind of visually or notable goals. It's really bad. It was really bad for optics for Zelensky, and Zelensky paid the price. Because it is for him that negotiations with the political allies became tougher. It is for him to deal with the souring political opinion, because Zaluzhny stays popular, right? Because he's the commander of chief on the army. He's making nice statements, but it's the Zelensky political, because he's a political leader, he is getting all of the bumps, because that's how it works. And it was Zelensky then problem to go around the world trying to restore some kind of faith in Ukraine, trying to build up that image, trying to make those statements about, wow, listen, like nothing is lost, like it's not a stalemate, it's not too bad, it's like it's fine, we can still win, we can still do it, please, more support to us. And it went really, really bad when General was still in this weird, as he stated, realistic perspective, which is understandable, and it's true. It is true. But a lot of this warfare is also the information warfare. This is the information age. This is the age where your image matters, where the way that you're perceived matters, where Ukraine, because it is so dependent on the allies, then how Ukraine appears to allies, that matters. That is why Petr Pavel, the president of Czechia, was specifically saying that Ukraine should not rush with the offensive because they will have one shot. He was not wrong. So Zelensky is looking at this, and then we're going in 2024. And then there is a situation when people from other countries are coming and trying to talk with Zaluzhny about what was that? What was the situation? What kind of outlook for 2024 is there? And then there was, in Ukrainian media, was quite famous semi-scandal, but thankfully it didn't explode in the Western media as much. But it was when Zaluzhny basically put up a list of how much stuff he needs, and it was shocking the Western leaders that the amounts of equipment that Zaluzhny needs is ridiculous. It's not realistic. That no country in the world has these kind of stocks. That was kind of like the narrative. And I believe Zaluzhny was right, because Ukraine needs resources. And I believe Zaluzhny is making calculations into how do I preserve my men's lives and make sure that we Ukrainians have overwhelming advantage over Russians. So we need to have more equipment than Russians would have. However, Russia is pulling from the superpower stockpile from the USSR. So Zaluzhny, by trying to do the honest thing and stating the actual facts, that's like Russia has X resources, so we need X plus 1 resources to beat it. And then like all of the European leaders that have completely abandoned production of military equipment for decades are like, wow, shock. And that was not that he was wrong, but it was another kind of put like a little bit of a piece to that pile that leaders were like, okay, Zaluzhny is just unrealistic. Like he's in some kind of dream scenario. So at that moment, Mariana Biza came to the scene. So Mariana Biza, she was in a committee with regards to military planning and stuff like that. I don't remember the precise name. I'm sorry about that. But the point is that beyond these requests for equipment, she was trying to get what is the precise plan for 2024 from General Zaluzhny. Because, and again, this is rumors, this is pure rumors. I only now just kind of talk about this. But at that moment, what was talked about is that Zaluzhny, he's very careful. His opinion, because he wants to preserve men's life, is we're not gonna do shit until we accumulate resources more than enough to crush the Russians, which is a normal strategy. However, that is also dependent that the resources get accumulated in the back, in the stockpiles, somewhere on the facilities inside of Ukraine, and they are not making them to the front line. And instead, it's the Ukrainian defenders trying to live off on the minimums of what they have. So no Western equipment going to the front lines, very, very little artillery shells going on the front lines. And we saw this pattern. Zaluzhny did specifically that before his offensive on the south. If you remember, as Ukraine started the offensive in the south, the expenditure of ammunition became much, much larger. And already now, we know that Ukraine still has a lot of equipment stored. But again, I believe this Zaluzhny's doctrine is like, we need to just be stockpiling equipment up until we're ready to attack. That's his doctrine. That's how he operates. And that is problematic for Zelensky. Because Zelensky, while he's being painted as this person that just fired Zaluzhny for maybe some political points. This is where the dispute between Zelensky and Zaluzhny is I don't understand where it's coming from. Up to still, there's still, again, no evidence that there was a major conflict with Zelensky and Zaluzhny, and I'm going to stand by it because no one produced any evidence for that. What I do believe is that, Zelensky travels a lot to the front lines, and he speaks a lot with people on the front lines. And from what I understood with Zelensky, how I can see him, he's very empathic. Do you remember when he went to Bucha? Remember, this is the time when, the new Zelensky appeared. This is probably the first time, before it was defense of the Kyiv, so he was sometimes uplifted. He was sometimes just like, okay, we can defend ourselves against Russians. And after he went to Bucha, it's like something died inside of him. And I believe that he is in pain for the whole Ukraine a lot. I believe he is in he feels the huge responsibility that every Ukrainian on the front line is facing. That he sees that we're accumulating all of these stockpiles of ammunition in the Ukrainian warehouses, and they're not going to the front line. And the people on the front lines are living without shells, are living without Western equipment, without ammunition. And Zelensky is asking, why am I getting all of these weapons if they're not helping our boys, if they're not protecting our guys? Why am I not, what are they dying for? And then he's looking at maybe Zaluzhny knows something, but then Zaluzhny already tried to do something with his tactic, and that didn't work. And I believe that was another piece in a puzzle for Zelensky. And then we go, basically, this is how something that in business is called either burning platform or more commonly known as fertile soil. So now Zelensky is on fertile soil for what's happening. Zelensky doesn't want to draft underage men. He doesn't want to draft young people because he wants future for Ukraine. Zaluzhny doesn't present a plan. He just said, we need to stockpile ammunition. We need to build up our forces. We need to get more resources, and then we're going to crush Russians. And then Mariana Biza says, that's not a plan. That's not a plan. You're just saying, just gather stuff and then just fight. That's not a plan. That, again, this is based on the rumors. I'm pretty sure that's not how Zaluzhny actually explained it. But what I believe Zelensky is looking at this with his mental state, the fertile soil, with all of that, is that with other commanders, they are offering alternative scenarios. And this is where I need to talk about Cersi, because I believe Cersi was the one that were able to deliver his vision to Zelensky. And there was a fertile soil for that vision to put roots in and blossom. So we end up with Cersi now being the commander-in-chief. So who is Cersi? He is a commander that was defending Ukraine from 2014 as well. He was the person responsible for infamous Debaltseve pocket. This was a huge tragedy for Ukrainian forces. I'm going to switch it over here. This was the situation. So you see over here, this is the city of Luhansk. I'm going to switch the colors. This is the city of Luhansk. And over here is the city of Donetsk. And this one is city of Bakhmut, by the way. This is Bakhmut. And yeah, Russians were encircling Ukrainian troops that were located in the city of Debaltseve over here. And at that moment, there was one road left. And instead of trying to get the forces out of this encirclement, supposedly Cersi ordered to send in more forces into that encirclement to try to hold the positions as long as possible. Debaltseve is an important place. Don't get me wrong. It's a major hub. Pretty much on Debaltseve, majority of this red territory over here that you see, they are, I mean, like, if you just like kind of look close enough, I'm going to try to, okay, I cannot zoom. But if you can look at Debaltseve and you see even the roads are kind of coming from it in all directions. But it's not only a road hub, it's also a huge railway hub. So if Russians would take Debaltseve, and they did, this basically unlocks the railway network for the whole area. So either Cersi was considering that potentially they can hold Debaltseve and miscalculated or not, or something else. But the point is, a lot of the problems that were happening around Debaltseve are often being referred to the Cersi himself. And a lot of Ukrainians died. A lot of Ukrainians died. It's an absolutely tragic event. You can look it up. It's pretty devastating. After that, Cersi pretty much got his nickname, the Butcher, since then. So, what happened then? Well, Cersi did the Kharkiv operation, because this is how he operates. Cersi tries to do fancy maneuvers. He's trying to do and do more of a, maybe high risk, high reward type of warfare. And one of the most kind of, and it's very hard to talk about this because we're going to be on the receiving end, is that Cersi sees military target before all. So military objectives must be achieved. And he is not afraid of sacrificing men. Cersi has shown itself that, for example, if he sees a weakness in the Russian forces, he's not going to be like tactical and methodical like Zaluzhny. He's going to be hitting that weak point with Russians. Many Ukrainians will die trying to hit that target. They will be sent into the potentially what Russians are doing right now, into these meat wave attacks even. But if they can reach the military objective, it was worth it. That is the way Cersi operates. And so here we go into some kind of a beneficial perspective for Cersi. For us as a side observers, we might like what Cersi does more. Because we're going to be looking at the map. At some point, Ukraine will go into offensive. And we're going to be looking at the map. And we're going to see Ukraine advancing. We're going to see Ukraine retaking certain territory, potentially putting some Russians in encirclements, potentially winning some territory, stuff like that. The problem is for Ukrainians. The problem is that this will come at horrendous cost. And everyone kind of knows that. However, Zelensky logic here is that if we just don't do nothing, if we just continue stockpiling equipment, if we just continue waiting and giving Russia time, they are not waiting. They are building their own production. They are building their own equipment. They're also building their allies. They're building factories. They're building connections. And because we're doing nothing, because we're not winning, because we're not delivering results, we as Ukraine, that Zelensky thinks, we're losing favor from our allies, we're losing support, we're losing resources, and we're putting ourselves long-term in a position that both more men will die and less chances there will be on Ukraine to win. And Zelensky talks about it quite openly. In his latest statement after he's taken the firing as illusion, he specifically talks about it. He talks and says that we need to win. We need to make sure that there is a popular narrative that Ukraine can win. That even if we lose people now, in a long term, it would still be worth it. And that is where kind of Zelensky and Cersi intersected. Zaluzhny proposed his vision, which he posted as an interview, and I guess it was mostly as a post-mortem. It was a how I would do it if I would continue, and I think they're gonna learn a lot from it. They're gonna take it a lot for Cersi, but what we can expect is Cersi revamping the army. Cersi understands very well that you cannot fight with Western-style military doctrines compared to Zaluzhny, which Zaluzhny still is. Like, Zaluzhny still tries to take care of his forces and so on. Cersi is not like that. Cersi is perceiving the forces more of a sort of a Soviet general. And he says that we need to more look towards not Soviet, but like Ukrainian style doctrine. Because Western armies, they don't fight with mobilized men. They don't fight with men that yesterday were marketing assistants and then they are not anymore. Western powers don't fight with men that spend in trenches 3+ years with no rotation. That is not how Western armies fight. So we cannot fight like a Western army. We don't have the ability to do so. And they don't have the ability. So that is basically Zelensky's gamble right now with Cersi. That he will try to do things to put Russia on the back foot, to use the resources that they have to try to do it. There is a huge push from Zelensky to pull as much resources as possible. Most likely we'll see a lot harsher mobilization and a lot more forced conscription towards the front lines. We're going to see a lot of parallels with what Russia was doing. But I believe Cersi, as I said, for him, the military objective is what defines the thing that needs to be done. He looks at humans as resource. And Zelensky says like, yeah, it's an awful perspective. But if we just don't do anything for a year, we're going to lose civilians to missile strikes. Russia is just going to become stronger. What's going to happen next? And that's where we are. That's why Cersi is where he is. That's why Zaluzhny is not where he is. Cersi is a lot more lenient towards listening to allies, to try what the Pentagon will offer. He's a lot more lenient towards utilizing more resources without having a lot more stockpiles, so potentially a lot more risks for Ukraine. But I believe that the taking over the initiative for Ukraine will be the primary goal, and this is going to be the goal for Cersi for 2024. Again, for us, the side observers, Cersi probably not going to be bad. As I said, we're going to be looking at the map at some point, and we're going to see positive dynamics. It's going to be great. It's going to feel really good. This is going to be really bad for Ukrainians, for warriors on the front line. I really hope this kind of builds a little bit of a picture, what it is. Now, General Zaluzhny's team has also been somewhat relieved, and Cersi will bring in his new team. Potentially Budanov also supports Cersi. Their kind of approaches are relatively similar, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Again, I think it's a really bad choice, personally. But maybe the way the situation that Ukraine ended up in, this is the choice that needs to be done. Zelensky is taking a lot of responsibilities. That's not everyone would be able to do it, this kind of choice, to relieve most popular commander, to try to do something differently. Because what was done before just didn't work. Well, I hope this kind of brings a little bit of perspective for you for Cersi. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make a separate video. Maybe I'll just gonna cut this out as a segment, because I don't believe that I will be able to do the 40-minute talk in a separate video again. But yeah, I'm here for you, for your questions. If you need something answered, I'm right here. Lord Commander, my only hope is that Cersi takes Zaluzhny's lessons to heart and adds that to his doctrine. Understand the melancholy, but I want to have hope. For sure. Well, I mean, Cersi is not like a backward general, right? A lot of people just paint him like he's like a nobody, like he's just like, nonsense, Soviet only, just send in men and then that's it. That's not true. That's not true. I have people that serve under Cersi, and they are saying, well, it's like Cersi came to our front lines, he was in our positions, he did check it out, so we've been fighting and we've been like, retaking certain territory. We are having certain successes. Is it meat grinder? Yes. But also like, we're fighting here. I know people that are serving under Cersi. So he is not like a complete zero. Like, it's not that Zelensky just put a nobody like Shoigu there. That's not it. Barba. Problem is not generals. A lot of Ukrainian men are not willing to fight for the country, sadly. Yes. Why is that? Why is that? Why did the narrative of let's fight for our country disappear? Is it maybe because of the dwindling sentiment that Ukraine can win? You see? It's all interrelated. What about if Ukraine starts winning? Georgie, check out Combat Vet Reacts. Very good analysis of situation. Doesn't get caught up in the media bullshit. Would love to see you guys collaborate. Thanks for £5. Maybe. Will not promise anything. David Elston, how do you think this change will affect the fate of Avdiivka? I personally think Avdiivka is done. I don't believe that there is an option to hold Avdiivka. Maybe Cersi will now unblock extra ammunition from the warehouses, and they will push back. So let's put it this way. Unless there is a pushback around Avdiivka in the coming 2 weeks, I think Avdiivka is like over. Like, because right now Avdiivka is in a terrible situation. Russians were able essentially effectively undercut one of the key points. that they just couldn't take it, so instead they went around it, and now effectively that point is cut off from the main Avdiivka, which is achieving pretty much the same point as taking that point. So this is really bad. One more key point that Russians take, and that's it. Avdiivka is just untenable. So there is right now 4 points around Avdiivka that are critical. And if one extra of these 4 points falls, that's it. The city is just done. Like, then it's only pull out. Darkest Alice, how will Ukrainians react? Very negatively. General Zaluzhny is very popular. Will this divide Ukrainians? Absolutely. Thank you for all that you do. Заради життя каждого українця. Так, yes, this is definitely not a popular decision. This is extremely unpopular. It's going to be really problematic for Zelensky to sell it. Rockefeller, $10. Will you stream the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin so that you can help us understand the disinformation? Yes. If Putin opens his mouth, it's disinformation. If Tucker Carlson opens his mouth, it's disinformation. You're welcome. Thanks for $10. Not happening. Cersi did get way better at building a general since the Baltseva. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a while ago. The Baltseva was a while ago. I'm just saying, I'm talking about his history. Jenna Fu, thanks for $20. Zalu seem to be more ambitious than needs to be right now. Both article he wrote should have been internal. Zalu is using Mao Zedong moves. Sorry, George, in my opinion. Sure. Dennis says Ukraine is preparing to pull out of Avdiivka. Yeah, quite possibly. I think it would make sense. Awesome HPT, Ukraine needs more aid. If the West had been more decisive and quicker with the aid, this might not have been a problem. Fair enough, but this goes both ways, Awesome HPT, right? It also goes about like, well, what did Ukraine do to achieve more aid? And that's the question that Zelensky is asking to everyone in his team and Zaluzhny's team. Is like, what did you guys achieve so we get more help? How can Zelensky at the same time appreciate Ukrainian lives after Bucha and then appoint the guy they called the butcher? I don't understand the analysis. Okay, Sub-Hero. So the point is, if they do nothing, then net more people will die. It's like bite the bullet. I'm queries, what does Cersi think of his soldier? I am queries. What does Cersi think of his soldiers? It's a resource. Let's put it this way. Kaimo, are you tuned up for the Tucker Carlson interview? No. Could it be they changed general and hope it would help with getting USA support back? I mean, maybe, but I don't think that it's dependent on the general. Unfortunately, Toyota Corolla, a great car. Unfortunately, our politics here in the US is so polarized. I don't see any Ukraine aid coming from Congress until after the election. Trump still has a heavy influence in the Republican Party. I mean, yeah, like the Republican Party just sold its soul to old rapist. So, I mean, to be honest, like, I want to be mad at US. Like, I really want to be mad that US Republicans are not sending help for Ukraine. But every time I get really riled up, like really, really mad at US, like I get fuming. And then I start, like, I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I try to imagine how is it to be sane living in that country right now, when you know that a half of your country is going nuts for a person that says, I'm going to dismantle your systems of governance. He's been multiple times convicted felon. He has been, I mean, like, maybe not felon, it's a precise, but like courts have convicted him of wrongdoing. He's a sexual predator, literally rapist. The guy had to pay 83 million because he couldn't shut up about the woman that he raped. The guy lies nonstop. Everything that he says can be fact checked. That's it. And half of the country is just going nuts for it. Like every time I try to get mad at this, I only think is like, I'm not sure if I should be mad because maybe it's you guys that need our thoughts and prayers because it's really fucked up. Emi Soul, where did Cersi fail? Solidar Bakhmut. So this is style. Solidar. At Solidar, he did a lot of wrong stuff. There was a lot of young guys that got encircled around Solidar. It's something that people on the front lines are still throwing towards Cersi. Like a lot of young guys with no experience died because of that. He's a charged felon soon to be convicted. Okay. Is Krinky still a little flame that has to grow or just derail to Russian army? I still like, so Krinky is like this. There was a chance at the autumn that where I was like, okay, so now we have this breachhead of Krinky. Cool. Okay. How do you get the stuff across the water to Krinky? How do you get supplies? Then there appeared certain videos where certain heavy equipment was trying to get over the river. I was like, nice. So they're doing it. But then appeared videos from the Russian drones how they're sinking all of these heavy barges that are getting heavy equipment. And I was like, yeah, okay, that doesn't solve the issue. Like, so basically you didn't answer the question that I was asking right away, which was, how do you get stuff over the river? And now it's just there. Why is it there? I have no fucking clue. Like, things that the analysts are saying is that's useful, that they're destroying a lot of Russians there, that it's a favorable exchange. Great. But that's about it. I don't see anyone talking about any possible future for that area. So I would not put a lot of chips on Krinky. The insane thing about the USA is that there is no provision in the Constitution that prevents convicted felons from running for president, but you can't vote for president if you have a felony. What? Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, some point Zelensky made. First line must receive Western weapons, effective rotation system. Only trained soldiers can be in a front line. Yep. Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan standalone bill just passed the Senate. There was 2 votes. I believe one vote right now was the, well, maybe there was a third one, but there was 2 votes. One was to, with 60 votes, they proceeded to see the bill. And then I think the second one with 67 votes was to advance it to further voting in Senate or something like this. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure if it was advanced to the House already. Georgie, you said Zaluzhny is very popular, hence see the problem. It's a Ukraine war, not a Zaluzhny world. It's a Ukraine war, not a Zaluzhny world. He's outshining the master or the situation. Don't worry, after Ukraine wins, Zaluzhny will go for presidency or higher. Maybe. I still haven't seen, like, I've heard these arguments that Zaluzhny wants to go for political career. I have not seen him make any political statements. He's been always professional. Any thoughts on how this will play with Zelensky wanting better troop rotations? I mean, more mobilization, more people, harsher mobilization roles. Zaluzhny didn't want to specific. I mean, like, I don't know. That's where my knowledge is a little bit shady. I'm not specifically sure what Zelensky specifically had in mind. He did say that They want to reshuffle the leadership team, and they want to change how the forces are formed. Potentially, Cersi agreed to this setup. The one with the border included failed. Yes, the one that border included failed yesterday. So it's these votes are today. Okay. So did it pass to House or not? Zelensky first, like, yeah. Thank you for empathizing with us, U.S. citizens who have to deal with Trumpism and Republican obstruction. It's an existence in insanity, and I pray they come in senses ASAP. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Phil. Like, it's just like, because I look at this and it's like, man, that's a madhouse. And like, I couldn't imagine living in it. I would lose it. Like, I would literally lose my shit. It's like, because just looking it from the side, and I'm like, wow. But just like a clown, like absolute clown, turned the whole country into a joke. Like a US, a superpower. The country that is built on one of the greatest histories in the world that has ever known. And he turned it in absolute disaster. I am sorry about the Republicans, but this is how our democracy goes sometimes. Positive aspect is they provided EU with a moment to change, and they did. That is true. That is true. EU definitely is on the momentum. By the way, this gives me, like, if we're talking about unpopular, I'm pretty sure like a lot of Trump supporters are right now unsubscribing from my channel. And since Trump injected himself between Ukraine and weapons and support for Ukraine, fuck Trump. So when I started, by the way, when I just started like a year ago, I was okay with Trump's. Like some of the policies I disagree with Trump's and so on. Other than that, it was, internal politics. It was not really my deal. Now Trump is completely inserted himself between Ukrainians or soldiers living and dying. Maybe my family members will die because Trump and his cronies are blocking the help for Ukraine. Fuck him. And fuck them all that are blocking the help for Ukraine. A lot of Republicans are unsubscribing from Trump. Yes, actually, yeah. Props to them. You said that in Western countries, mobilized forces do not fight. But for example, here in Finland, very, very different case. I agree with Finland. I agree with Finland. Yeah, yeah. Finland, that is absolutely inaccurate. Finland, no, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Finland is a very unique case. Finland and Sweden are very unique cases because the countries were not in NATO, so they were not that lenient to be under US umbrella, and were just like, corrupting the shit out of their military infrastructure. Yes. Is the story connected to the appointment of Umerov? How? Uh, well, no, 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 not really, because Umerov was appointed as a substitute for Reznikov, and Reznikov was dismissed because of his um, standing with like corruption and stuff. Do you think the change in command would put Kerch Bridge in more danger? Uh, I mean, it's definitely different. We'll see. We'll see. You're generally optimistic. Hearing you less optimistic hurts. Care to end with something good? I mean, like I like do it this way. Like I'm not pessimistic. Like don't get me wrong. Again, Sirski is not a bad general. I don't see him as a bad general. I believe that this will be a lot more painful and a lot harder, potentially, for Ukrainian troops. A lot more Ukrainian troops will die so that more Ukrainians can live. I hope that makes sense. Because the alternative, at least the way that Zelensky is seeing it, is just a lot more Ukrainians will die, including the troops. So I feel that for us, this is the way of turning it around. Yeah. No, you're lying. There we go. Yeah, I don't like listening to propaganda, open propaganda, because there is no benefit in it. The only because at some point propaganda can make like an argument that you start thinking about it and then they got you. That's it. I have to listen to it at some point, but Red Rolling, why don't Americans just force Speaker Johnson to aid Ukraine? Because they can't, he's a speaker. And what measures do you think needs to be put for these things to happen anymore? Vote blue. Christopher Bender, wars are won by logistics and morale, or at least like if you're voting red, vote, what is the alternative? Nikki Haley? Yeah. Get Trump out, then you can vote back Republicans. Like hope that next time it's not going to be some asshole like Ramaswamy, and hope that Trumpism will die out after Trump. Nikki Haley is not the greatest, I know, but I mean, compared to Trump, I think a tree would be better. I want to point out that US has gone through these shit times historically. Look back to the 70s, will come around for processes just messy. I really want to believe that, but you already voted out Trump once, and now he's back. Like, when you voted Trump out, I was like, well, fucking finally. Now we're done with this shit. And now this jackass is out polling Biden. Now Biden is getting shit for the economy, which is the best economy in the world. Can you square that circle for me? Nikki Haley would pardon Trump. Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't give a shit what happens with Trump, right? He just needs to get out of politics. Orange tree. Through Trump was okay before the situation. Trump was always a clown. No, not Trump was okay. Okay, so my argument, right? So I don't care about politics, right? I like policies. Even now, like in a lot of the Western world and so on, I like policies. I think certain policies of Trump was okay. Scrapping the Iran deal, fucking A. Absolutely amazing. I think there should be no even attempts to try to peace with dictators. Dictators are a bane of democracies. All the dictators at some point they start working against us. So we need to protect ourselves from dictators, not try to make friendies with them. So that one was especially props from me. But then others were like, like I'm gonna build a wall. I mean, it's populism, right? The wall does nothing. It doesn't matter. People made such a big deal of that wall. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna build a wall and Mexico is gonna pay for it. That's like pure populism. And it's harmless populism. So there will be a wall. Like, no one cares about the wall. It can be walked around, scaled, and so on. It doesn't matter, So it was kind of like, okay, whatever. Then he made some, then external politics, he was really bad. He was really, really bad. But it always felt that he's he's such a joke that at some point people kind of just in the US realize in 3-4 years that this was just a mistake and we should never do it again. Especially when he threw a temper tantrum when he was flying to Denmark, and it's because I live in Denmark. And then he asked our prime minister if he can buy Greenland from Denmark. And and our prime minister said, like, that's not how it works. Like, Denmark is a country, they're governing themselves. We cannot sell you Denmark, the Greenland. And then Trump turned around and never came to Denmark. Like, and just like, and the guy was always like crying on Twitter. He was like always, "Oh, I'm being oppressed." I'm like, from Monty Python, this peasant, "Help, help, I'm being oppressed," and so on. That's kind of the level. Like, he was a crybaby. So for me, it was always like, okay, like, he's gonna be done by the end of the term. And I know a lot. He pissed a lot of people off. For me, it just kind of like didn't really trigger to that extent. And when especially you voted him out, I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like, US realized that Biden came in. Now we're like, then Biden made the speech. America is back. Remember that one? And now 4 years later, what the fuck is happening? I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, a guy that is so beyond reason is now taking control and twisting and turning and squeezing second party and potentially even the most popular party. No, it's like definitely not popular. Democrats, I believe, is still a little bit more popular, despite the persona of Biden being divisive in the youth of US. But still, it's just like, what a shit show. Yeah, Bannon. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like yes, and a lot of these stories, like the Kofefe story, it's like, he's so dumb, like, he was so bad that it was like, man, like, that this is not for real. This is like a period. It's like a teenage period. Just at some point, it's like this is not for real. This guy is not gonna be there next election. He's gonna be done. And I was like, learn nothing. Nothing at all. And now Trump is again on the ballot. And like, that's it. Now the best alternative is nobody to Trump. What the fuck is happening? Yeah. Yeah. It would be so funny if it would be that sad, guys. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is like, that's why I cannot feel mad at US. Can you do a video about how the south of Ukraine fell so easily? Red, like, there's been so many videos that I was making and I never finished them. It was including like how how Ukraine lost the south, how everything. Yeah, it's just. Oof. I also have video in the works about Maidan, where I went through like the old footage of Maidan on 2014, and I took apart every single lie that Russians did by showing like the clips from Maidan. Like, pretty much the whole video was just clips, because on YouTube you can actually search. And I went in from the day of Maidan. I searched videos from that day, like live videos, like people just from their phones uploaded to the YouTube and so on. And I was just like going through these videos from people's on the street in Ukraine. They were just filming and so on. Yeah, it was pretty awesome, and I never finished it. So I have so much in the works that I never did release. If you think Trump is in the same position as Austria, Councillor Nihama said that starvation ain't a thing. Poor people can just buy a hamburger to have a hot meal. Yeah, I mean, like, I had my problems with Austria as well. Like, Austria is still a big supporter of Russia, and I don't understand Austria. The problem is, like, and this is no disrespect to Austria, but US is a little bit of a, how do you say, I don't want to say more important, because no country is particularly more important than the other, but like, it can be impactful if a dumbass is in charge in US. Whereas there are checks and balances in EU. Well, maybe not checks and balances, but you can at least go chill in Spain until it blows over. Yeah, yeah, Odessa as well. There were covered. Yes, yes. Yeah. All right. Well, that was interesting talk. Again, guys, don't think that everything is bad. I don't think so. I think there is a new approach that Zelensky wants to establish. I believe if Zaluzhny will stay and help and so on, I think the timeline of 5-6 months is very reasonable. So let's give Cersi those 5-6 months to prepare, and let's say 2 months more. And this is going to be my kind of cutoff point. Remember, I talked to you about the summer offensive cutoff point, and I said it was September. And after September, I did my judgment, and it was pretty cool. So this time we'll do the same. So now it's what, February? So let's say 8 months. So October this year, we're gonna do the cutoff point, and we're gonna evaluate how well this change happened. Can we expect this Rada Jobsto video anytime soon, or is it more long-term schedule-wise? No, Zrada Jobsto I maybe will make relatively soon. There are reasons for this. If I missed someone's fund funding, let me see if I missed anyone's. Glad I could make to the stream. Dr. Canada, thank you. Good to see you, Georgi Slava Ukraini. David Oliver, thank you. Reinhard, thank you so much. Toyota Corolla, yes, thank you for all of your donations and comments. Captain Copenhagen, very nice seeing you, my friend. Yeah, Tucker Carlson. V, thank you so much. Here's a term for you, magapeds. Magapeds, yeah, thanks, Lors Commander. Appreciated. Geno Fu, Ghostmorn. Yes, yes, thank you so much, guys. Please consider calling Russians Muscovites going forward for this. Their true aim. They're not Rus. I don't care about this shit. It's like it's historic stuff. It's like I think it's nice as a nuance, but like it's just it's a little bit childish. I know why it is there, but it's just like, oh, Muscovites. Yeah, Rusnya is Rusnya. Dr. Canada. I just wanted to say we Canada don't like our leader either, but many of us come together and say at least he's in Trump. Nice. Again, like all the people that support Trump, if Trump would not put himself in between lives of Ukrainians and help for Ukraine, I would not say anything. You could have just lived in your own peaceful world, MAGA world, and enjoy your time. I even have MAGA hat somewhere. It's somewhere in a shitter, but it is somewhere. So there we go. Jack Fowler, I'm super late to the stream, but just seen the news. Alexander Cersi taking charge could be a good thing, right? Yes, it could be. He's done well in the East, and a new face, new ideas could shape things up. Well, I wouldn't really call him a new face, but new ideas for sure. Trump is a danger, and US is in deep. Yes, agreed, Captain Copenhagen. Trister1, thank you so much for $50. I appreciate it so much. I guess I covered all of the fund funding, didn't skip anyone. Hope it's great. Lovely. No, I wouldn't say Cersi is an old style. I think Cersi, how would I put it? I think Cersi sees value in utilizing resources to their potential. In practice means that, like, if you still have people in the unit, that unit can do things. So let's send that unit to do things, despite the fact that that unit might be, understaffed, not working, or tired, or something like this. So he is more dedicated towards the goal, which might be what Ukraine needs right now. Again, lovely stream. Thank you so much, guys. Video tomorrow. I'll do more as much as I can. Again, sorry for not releasing video every day. Slava Ukraini. I love you all. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. Peace.